I'm Pamela Lamont, and right now I am concentrating the energy of my life into my artwork. After spending 20-some years as being an art educator in Wichita, I decided it was time for me to do artwork for myself. People have asked me where my inspiration comes from. I can't always tell them. Many times when I walk up to a canvas, I just sit there and take a deep breath, or a lot of times I lay it down on a table or I have it on an easel. I just put paint on the brush or on the canvas, and I just move intuitively most of the time. All fiber has a texture of some sort, whether it's rough or smooth or stickery, I guess I would say. And it has a texture because of the way it's woven and what fiber it's woven with. And so after you've worked with fiber for pretty much your whole life, you know what that feels like. So then you have to take your brush and your colors, and if you're wanting texture of a tree, then you remember what that texture feels like. You know what to do with your brush to create that texture, whether you need shading, whether you need little dots to create visual texture. And so I think working with fiber has helped me be aware of texture and how to make it happen with paint. They all have a structure to them. Like I said, choreography, it's how you put the movements together. Theater needs a script. It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then it needs the differences of the actors to create the intensity of it. Gives you the emotion, the way they say their words, the way they don't say them, the pauses in between. And so with dance, it does the same thing, and visual arts is very much a compilation of all of that. You know, if you look at it, even the artwork that's on the gallery, the photographs, if you really study them, there's repetition in them, the color makes a big difference, whether it's in the foreground, the background. And all of these components, I use in my visual work, and I don't know that I'm even conscious of it. I think all my training and experience, a couple of the instructors say, you paint intuitively. You know, sometimes I will plan out a composition and I'll use that plan for a backbone, but then I start filling in the blanks with just me. I've come to realize that I see the world. I had a person tell me, she said, I have a feeling the world you see is a lot different than the world I see. The way I spoke, maybe the way I described things. People always have thought, ever since I was pretty small, that I was kind of weird, different, because of the way I saw the world, the way I described things. And I think gradually I have decided that I am not a representational artist. If you want me to paint a picture of your dog, it's going to come out looking like Picasso, because I'm going to see shapes and colors and texture, and I'm not going to put them together in the organized composition of a dog's face or their ears. You know, what I see is very, very different. I don't know when, it was just recently, I have started painting to music. And some of my best compositions, and they've sold. I had 3 huge canvases set up in my garage, and it was just me and the canvases and the easels and the paint. And so I had my music playing in my ears, like we all do now. And I like music from movies, because the music is usually pretty dramatic, has a lot of intensity, volume changes, visual patterns. You know, it can be very quiet or it can be very intense and scary, You know, so I was listening to the music from the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you know, or some of the other ones that are just really intense. And so I just picked up the paintbrush, and having my dance background, if you could have watched me, I was actually dancing with a paintbrush in my hand. And I had large canvases, and I went from one canvas to the other. In fact, if you put the canvases together, there's actually a through line that would connect. You'd know when it was 1, 2, 3, because that line is going to connect. They've sold separately, but when the music intensifies, my brushstroke intensifies. If it goes high, then my arm is just like a dance, it goes up. And if the music is staccato, then the marks on the page are going to be chopped up, different sizes and different levels. Yeah, it's like a scribble or like confetti that exploded on your canvas. One of the strongest, I think, reactions my paintbrush has had is the soundtrack from The Last of the Mohegans. It's a difficult piece of music to interpret because I've seen the movie, and the movie is, let's face it, gut-wrenching, and it's difficult to watch. And so I didn't paint the images that I know that are in the movie. What I painted was really actually very abstract, very sparse lines, but very dramatic, bold, and opposition of very thin. And so that piece of work, and there's sections of that soundtrack that are very quiet. They're very still, but they're very intense. And the one piece I did that is actually the center section of the strain in that theater, in that movie, was very quiet, but there was a lot of intensity to it. And it's a very negative space, a lot of negative space, but the marks on the page are very dramatic. And like I said, I was actually painting with my paintbrush, dancing with my paintbrush in my hand. This one right here, dancing drum. This one, it's interesting. I wasn't listening to music when I did this. Now, I am a percussionist. When I was in band or so, I played the drums, and so I'm fascinated with any type of percussion instrument. It doesn't have to just be a drum. I wasn't listening to any music. I was in class. The canvas was laying flat on the table. And as I was listening to people around the room talk about their day or whatever, I was just squeezing paint on the canvas out of tubes. I was just grabbing them up and just straight out of strength, not toned down or anything. And then I just started moving my hand on the canvas as I playing with the paint, like you would see a child do, just free, just not worried about anything. And you know, there was a lull in the conversation, and somebody looked over and they said, "Wow, I really like what you've done." And I thought, "Oh my gosh," you know. So I walked around it, and other people walked around it, and somebody in the background said it's done, you know. And I added a few more of the black marks just to kind of add a little bit more of a unifying, directional mark on there, and that's what I ended up with. Well, if you think about the word Renaissance, and you know, and the way the Renaissance period changed us, and what it added to our lives, or what it took away, or what it subtracted from our lives, I see my artwork as it is now is because I'm allowing that to happen. You know, I'm allowing my experiences from my life to add to what I put on the canvas. And there again, the visual arts, the music, the dance, the choreography, that's why the arts are so important in the world, because they interconnect, they help us express things. We learn, you can learn so much cognitive ability by doing the arts, you know, whether it's dance or what it is, because it uses your brain in different ways. It brings stuff out. You see things differently. You react to people differently, you know, just by experiencing the arts. So if anybody tells me we don't need art in the schools, they might have an argument coming from me, because I can share what I've seen with people, not just youth, what they learn when they're doing art. You know, how they learn to convey words or thoughts, you know, and how to organize them. So it's really important, really, really important. I've become fascinated with watching people look at my art. And what I like to do at a show is just stand across the room and watch their reactions. Like I said, a lot of times I tell people I do puppy dog art, and they go, "Oh, you draw dogs?" And I said, "No. You know, puppy dog, if you're talking to them, they go like this, and they go like this, and they may kind of get away from you, and then they may come towards you." That's what people do when they're looking at my art. It's really kind of comical. And then I like it when they walk up to the card beside it to see the artist's name, and usually I have a statement, a short statement, if there's a card that explains what kind of spurred this piece, or if there's a meaning behind it, or what I want to evoke from them. That's exciting. And then if someone comes to you and say, "I'd like to buy that piece of work," that it's not only is it rewarding to have that cash back in your, you know, your supply fund, it's exciting that they like it so much they want to take it home and live with it, that it means something to them.